Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the New York session of the Constitutional Reform Commission. Thank you all for coming out and braving the not so good weather, but we have to be thankful for the rain, snow, sun, whatever. We are going to go straight into the national anthems, and then that will be followed by prayer. And I'm going to ask everyone to stand for the flag.
Let us pray. Dear Father God, We come to you today, Lord, knowing, Lord, that you will be our guide. Knowing, Lord, that we are your loyal sons and daughters. As we gather, Lord, as Barbadians in this holy place, we gather in your presence, in your love, in your harmony, Lord, and with you. I ask you, Lord, for your guidance on our commission, Lord. As they travel, take them safe. As they guide us, Lord, let us take the guidance. As we share, Lord, let us listen and hear each other. Dear God, we ask you, Lord, to continue to be the people's guide for Barbados. And we are proud, Lord, to be Barbadians. Bless, love, Lord, and we are your children. And so, Lord, as we take this time together, we take it together, Lord, with your grace, with your mercy. And I ask these few words to us, Lord, our Savior, Jesus Christ, our Son. Amen.
This is a very historical event that we are engaged in today. As everyone knows, 2 years ago, Barbados embarked on a change of direction. Some may have seen it as a symbolic change, but an important change nevertheless, moving to republic status. And from there, it has been determined, obviously, that we need a new constitution. The constitution is the supreme document of the land. And I would like to think that for most of us, I know it is true. This is the first time we're going to have the opportunity to contribute to the constitution of Barbados. A lot has changed since 1966. There are a number of things that are also in the future, whether it is how do we deal with the new methods of communication. We know what happens on the internet. There's good and bad with everything. But how do we as a country deal with these things? We are now, this moment, witnessing the rise of AI. How do we deal with these things? Because obviously a constitution is something that we do not want to be tinkering with. Currently, it takes a 2/3 majority. The president is likely she has a full majority. But the fact remains that we want to have a constitution that can serve Barbados for well into the foreseeable future. Some points are contentious, others not so much. And what we are about here today is to present to members of the Constitutional Reform Commission. And I want to, at this time, introduce the members of the commission who are with us today. In New York, this delegation is led by the Honorable Justice Christopher Blackman, who is second to my left. To my immediate left is Shadia Jibba. I'm not going to read the bios, they're there for you. Next to Chairman Blackman is Reverend Senator Dr. John Rogers. And at the far end is Professor Cynthia Barrow-Giles. They're here to listen. I've been asked some questions. No, there is no draft yet. We are still listening. We're still taking the temperature of Barbadians wherever from here. The commission goes to Boston on Monday, goes to Toronto, and I believe Atlanta. But I want to thank the commission for seeking to include Barbadians overseas in the process. I'm sure today we will hear something about Barbadians being allowed to vote. Barbadians who live overseas being allowed to vote. I'm not going to present today, which is probably a good thing. but we all have strong opinions, and that is what we want to hear. With that, I will stop and invite the chair, Justice Christopher Blackman, to make some introductory remarks.
All. I ask your indulgence for not standing. I have this left leg that had a fall 2 months ago, so I'm somewhat incapacitated. I give you the assurance that it was not caused by anyone close to me. It was my own fault. I slipped, so I am not wearing a sign. She cheated it. All my fault. When Barbados started the process in 1966 to obtain independence from the United Kingdom, there was little engagement with the public at large. This remained the case over 50 years, notwithstanding the significant constitutional amendments in 1974, 2002, and 2021. The 1974 changes dealt with judicial and senior public service appointments. That in 2002 established the death penalty as the law of Barbados, and created the Caribbean Court of Justice in the place of the Privy Council. And then the most significant was in 2021, the declaration of Barbados being a republic with the replacement of Her Majesty the Queen by a local person as President of Barbados. During the debate in 2021, the government gave the assurance that broad consultations would be undertaken to determine the matters for inclusion in the Constitution of the Republic of Barbados. And consequently, in June 20th of last year, a Constitutional Reform Commission was sworn in by the acting President of Barbados. The warrant of appointment requires the Commission to consult with Barbados both locally and abroad on what provisions they would like included in the Constitution for the Republic of Barbados. Since the Commission was launched, it has hosted 4 town hall meetings and several call-in programs. And in March of this year, a delegation of 3 commissioners visited Barbados in the United Kingdom with meetings in Birmingham, Reading, and London, and heard their views on matters of concern to them. It is now the turn of Barbados and the Americans to have their say. We, the Commission, are here to listen. I am obliged to say, however, as I have done elsewhere, that every proposal advanced may not be appropriate or relevant for inclusion in the Constitution. It may be, however, that a suggestion or proposal may merit consideration for other legislative action, and if we so determine, we will, in accordance with the mandate in our warrant of appointment, so recommend. Consul General Mackey has introduced the members of the Commission who are here this evening, and going forward to the meeting in Boston on Monday, we expect to be joined by the Deputy Chairman, Senator Gregory Nichols, who fly out tomorrow. And I wish to acknowledge the courtesies of the Consul General and the staff of the Consulate for making the arrangements for this visit. I do so with a special knowledge that you've been obliged to do so to twice. As in March, bad weather caused the deferral of that visit, and now you've had to do it again for this occasion. We really appreciate the efforts you've made. I know that some of those cancellations might have been very challenging for you, and it even may have put you out of pocket. However, the Commission is not in a position to satisfy that debt. You may have to look elsewhere. But nevertheless, we are looking forward to the engagement with you. We are listening, notwithstanding the provocation by the Consul General. We give you no assurances about anything relating to voting. You have to make that case. We are not here to make. We're here to listen. And when we have heard from you, we go back and we deliberate. And because this exercise that we're having with the Americans at this time almost brings to an end of degree of public consultation. It remains for us to meet with the members of the House of Assembly. We met with the Senator Redding, and also with the one major union. But virtually all these major stakeholders in Barbados whom we've reached out to have responded. Those whom we reached out to and said they have not, well, the records will reflect what our actions have been. So, thank you all for coming out on a fairly dismal Saturday evening when you could be all doing something more exciting. And so I look forward with great interest to what you have to say to us. Thank you very much.
We're going to get into the presentations in a quick manner, but just let me acknowledge, as I need to, our permanent representative at the United Nations, Ambassador Francois Jackman. Council Angela Kench. Their staffers from the consulate here. If you want to, you can stand so that the folks can see who. They're shy today. I need to acknowledge as well Sabine Edialing, Reverend Edialing from the Church of the Incarnation. It's a small world. And Professor Sam Tate is also here. Of course, we're happy to see everyone. So, just let me say the rules of engagement. As you come to the mic, please state your name clearly. And you will then make your presentation. I don't know who wants to go first. We have a few. Mary Yearwood wants to go first.
Okay, I'm going to give this over to Ben. Could you do me the honor?
New Jersey.
Yeah. Okay. And I wrote this out, typed it out, in fact, and Consul General Holder, I'm going to give it to you afterward.
Give it to the Commission.
Okay, for your reference. And I'm doing this.
Speak into the mic.
I'm doing this because I publish Bajan Diaspora online, and so, yeah, okay. All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I publish Bajan Diaspora online, and I feel like, or I felt like, I have a particular say on behalf of Barbadians in the diaspora. They might not agree with me, but I will let you decide whether I'm correct in my suggestions. All right? Pardon me? Okay, very good. All right, so as I said, my name is Mary Yearwood, publisher and editor of the online magazine, Bajan Diaspora Online. I've always believed that Barbadians in the diaspora should have a voice in the direction of our homeland. And in order to do that, we need to also have a voice in who we think should lead the country. That means that we should be given an opportunity to vote. I'm sure there are many others who feel the same, but because of the unknown, they are silent. Now, with Barbados as a republic, the time has come to reflect a new form of government and a new system of government. And here we are, being given a voice in this historic move of amending our constitution. Actually, we come as a Bajan diaspora with questions. Our governmental leaders will hopefully come with the answers to those questions. So let's put aside hyperbole and speak the facts. So, since the beginning of Bajan migration to countries outside of Barbados, it has always been a fact that when they choose to also take up citizenship in their new country of residence, they automatically have dual citizenship. So, there has never been a problem there. It is understood that the laws of both nations must be adhered to, as that has always been respected as far as Barbadians are concerned. So then, what's the problem? Why are some Barbadians living in the diaspora so opposed to this new phenomenon? That is, Barbadians in the diaspora being allowed to vote in Barbados elections. First, let's talk about the ever-present gorilla in the room, money. What does this mean for Barbadians in the diaspora? Will we now be double taxed? That's a question that needs to be answered assuredly and in writing, so that Barbadians in the diaspora know exactly where they stand. Now, we have two types of Bajans in the diaspora. Those who remain to live in their country of choice as just permanent residents or green card holders and naturalized citizens, those who have taken out citizenship in the foreign country, thereby making them dual citizens of Barbados and their adopted country of residence. Question: is there then a distinction, or can those Barbadians that are just permanent residents and the Barbadians that are dual citizens be looked at in the same way from the standpoint of the Barbados government? Remember, we already have been afforded dual citizenship for about a half of a century without any requirements. It's automatic, as you already know. But by now, being given the right to vote in Barbados, will there be some requirement for dual citizens? Will it be the same for permanent residents? Will they be in a different category and have a different requirement? Will all Bajans in the diaspora be allowed to vote only in general elections every 5 years? Will those Bajans with dual citizenship only be allowed to vote in the general election as opposed to having a say in all decisions? These are all questions that we need answers to. But foremost, by being allowed to vote in Barbados elections, will dual citizens and permanent residents now be subject to double taxation? And to what extent? Will we have to file yearly tax returns, even if we are making zero income, if given the right to vote? There are more questions than answers for all concerned. I'm almost done. Thing is, the majority of Barbadians have been supporting Barbados' economy from the start. Maybe not in the form of taxes, such as payroll taxes, but by the influx of foreign revenue into the country. A, when we send money to our relatives and friends. B, when we return to the island and spend money and pay local taxes. And C, when we buy homes and when we invest in other ways. Barbadians in the diaspora have given so much and have not been duly recognized or thanked for their sacrifices by the citizens of Barbados, going back for decades. It would be unfair then to ask us to pay a second tax. It might be more palatable to Bajans in the diaspora if they were given the option to vote, and for that privilege be charged a nominal application fee without having to be double taxed. The changes in our culture, either from taking on a new culture, from the influx of citizens from other islands, or from Barbadians in Barbados being indoctrinated and influenced by those foreign cultures that replace those Barbadians who have migrated, has caused a somewhat deep divide in how we view one another, including Barbadians in Barbados, who see Bajans in the diaspora as condescending and threatening. In the end, we are all Barbadians. Finally, my question is, who will look out for the interests of Bajans in the diaspora, to give us assurances and to look out for our best interests? There is no particular functional diaspora representative or MP or delegate whose foremost responsibility would be to sit in Parliament to look out for us and our welfare and the best interests, and our best interests, as we are included in this newly revised Constitution. Thank you.
Very good, Mary.
When you come to speak, don't just speak, don't touch the mic. He will operate it from there.
Okay.
Thank you for that presentation, Ms. Yarbrough.
You're welcome.
It made a number of assumptions and raised a number of questions, a lot of which I would say, as I remember, deal with a lot of hypotheses. One thing I can say to you with assurance that we have received a number of submissions related to the diaspora, which are going to be considered by the Commission. There is nothing, except nothing has been determined as to whether the diaspora would vote, the conditions of voting, or any of the above. So some of the things you're seeking, we cannot give any of those assurances. And sort of assist the consideration of matters this afternoon. When this commission finishes its work, we will submit a report to the President, who in turn will pass that to the Cabinet and independent senator, actually speaks to the fact that the diaspora should have someone in the cabinet to represent their interests. So that is on the table in the submission we've had. But this still has to consider the totality of things. But all I can say to you is your paper, like all the others, will be considered. It will be considered, and the determination date will be fullest of time against the totality of what we have had and what we regard to be the best interests of Barbados, where we go on the map. The fact that sometimes the matter is not resolved in the way that you may want to see it resolved doesn't mean it will not be considered. You have the assurance that it will be considered like all the other papers we've had. Particularly, the diaspora has been a hot topic, certainly from the United Kingdom, and the papers we've got from a member of the Senate in a very detailed fashion. So, I can give you that assurance. Any other contributions?
Next contribution. We're going to have one read on behalf of Mayor Adrian Matt of Plainfield. He's the only known Barbadian to be a mayor of any town anywhere in the world, and it's going to be read on his behalf by Ms. Sonia Clark.
As the Consul General mentioned, this is from Adrian Mack, and it reads, Dear Consul General and members of the Constitution Reform Commission, as a proud Barbadian, I was overcome with a great joy when our island nation, under the leadership of our Minister Mia Amor, took the giant leap that propelled the finish line to truly sever all ties to the British monarchy, thus leaving our colonial past behind, by finally removing the one remaining shackle that still, after our independence in 1966, left us tethered to our colonial masters. The establishment of a Constitutional Reform Commission in the wake of us becoming a republic acknowledges the need for Barbadians to have a voice in the formation of a new constitution that will be for the ages and that will determine how we govern ourselves and by what fundamental principles. The following are my recommendations. 1. There shall be term limits for the president, who shall be elected every 6 years. 2. An elected president shall be limited to serving no more than 2 consecutive terms. 3. Parliamentary elections should be staggered with not all seats up at the same time. 4. 1/3 of all parliamentary seats should be up for re-election every 2 years. 5. In the first election, which shall be called 3 months after the new constitution is ratified by Parliament, all parliamentarian seats, along with the presidency, shall be filled by a vote of the electorate. 6. In the first election occurring 2 years after all parliamentarian seats and the presidency had been filled, 1/3 of the parliamentarian seats shall be up for re-election. 7. 2 years thereafter, another 1/3 should be up for re-election. 8. Then 2 years after the 3rd election, the last 1/3 of the seats shall be up for election. 9. From this point on, an election should be held 1/3 of the parliamentarian seats every 2 years, and a vote for the presidency every 6 years. 10. A date certain for elections every 2 years shall be fixed on the first Tuesday after the first Monday of a month certain. That is, it could be the first Tuesday after the first Monday in May every 2 years. 11. The roles of the President and the Prime Minister shall be combined, and there shall only be a President who will be head of state and the CEO. 12. The term of the presidency shall be a maximum of 6 years. And 13. Parliamentarian seats shall be apportioned based on population. 14. A parliamentarian shall reside within the boundaries of the district he or she represents. Signatories to the new constitution shall be from both of the major political parties, namely the BLP and the DLP. It should not matter who holds the reins of power. 16. A Supreme Court shall be created, and its justices shall be appointed with advice and consent of Parliament. And last, the Supreme Court shall be the final arbitrator of all constitutional questions. Please consider these suggestions as we work on forming a new constitution. Regards, Mayor Adrian Mack. Thank you.
It's sad to say that's the most detailed proposal I've had, or read, or heard. It seems to mirror very much the U.S. Constitution. And I have a view on that.
We're going to have another red presentation. This one is celebrated by Dr. O'Neill Paris, who's the president of Barbados Diaspora Collaborative, one of the organizations under the New York jurisdiction. It's going to be read by Mrs. Mayor Currington. They did a series of thoughts they previously detailed.
From Dr. O'Neill Paris, President of Barbados Diaspora Collaborative. I just have a few quick random thoughts, mostly related to health that merits consideration. Age of consent, age of majority, health as a human right, access to health care, environmental health, mental health, child health, children with disabilities, adults with disabilities, right to an education, rights of prisoners, adequate housing. Thank you.
Just a minute, don't go far. Is Dr. O'Neill prepared to flesh out some of those thoughts?
Yes, he is. I should have spoken to Dr. O'Neill. He had to fly at short notice, so we just wanted to.
There's some interesting, provocative issues there, but just leaving them there bald doesn't help us. What does it mean in terms of thing in relation to prisoners, for example? Some of the things you mentioned have been reflected in other contributions we've had, health, the environment, and the like. But the one in relation to prisoners is new. And I am interested in how you'd like to expand upon that. And perhaps when we've got it to read and consider, we might go back and ask him to clarify and expand it, make it more, more helpful to the commission.
Okay, next we're gonna have Reverend Indiana.
Thank you, CG. Commissioners, you guys must be applauded for the great work you're doing in terms of encountering these situations and also soliciting more input and so on for the Constitution review. I'm very concerned about several areas. I haven't had a CJ, I haven't knows that one, so I'm just thinking through some of this stuff. I'm thinking about the Senate. Now, I've been here in this country for a while, and you have the 2 levels, you have the 3 levels really. But the Senate in terms of the senatorial aspect of government and so on here in this country, these individuals are all voted. And with all respects to my good friend, the Reverend Rogers and the others who are senators, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be nice if Barbados could also vote for the senators as well, in terms of being part of that new establishment of the Constitution? So that was one aspect that I was thinking about. And the other one had to do with, Cicely, you're going to be around on this? Equity, diversity, and...
Diversity, equity,
and inclusion, yes, those are the 3 aspects there. I'm wondering sometimes the sense of inclusiveness and so on. It seems to be so limited in terms of, again, Dr. O'Neill alluded to healthcare. And, in this country, there's emphasis placed a lot on inclusiveness and so on, even in the church. And I look forward to the day when Barbados involves this sense of beloved community, if I could call it that, where we are all part of the gamut of not only health care, but also in terms of the unity of marriage and so on. So yeah, we're looking at same-sex marriage and all that sort of thing. And that's where I think, indeed, that we need to take stock and pay particular attention to the inclusivity of individuals, no matter who you are, no matter your sexual orientation and the like. Cicely, come over to the mic now.
No, not me.
Dr. Wilkinson has a bit more to say, but indeed, I'm very concerned about those 2 aspects. I may come back again, I'm just getting my thoughts together, my notes together. Come on over, Cicely, it's your turn. Thank you.
Dr. Wilkinson, come up to this.
She's very concerned with health care and health initiatives and so on.
Mr. Wilkinson is president of the Barbados Nurses Association of America. I don't know why she's so shy tonight. She has some strong views.
Good afternoon. Thanks for including the New York Diaspora. Basically, my concern is about health care. I do believe we need to pay more attention to health care within Barbados.
That's right.
And statistically, I don't think we are paying sufficient attention to the diabetic care, because I find too many Barbadians are having amputations. So I do believe that we need to change the education level or improve the education when it comes to preventative care. And as Father Allen and I were speaking about the diversity, equity, and inclusion, I know that sometimes when parties change, Barbadians may stick to one party, but I do believe that it's time that we think about Barbados and not the party line. Because if we are going to move forward,
we need to look at I would say the goals and objectives for what we want as a republic as we move forward. And I do agree that the senators maybe need to be appointed. And healthcare, elected. And when it comes to healthcare, I'm very passionate about healthcare. I was trained in Barbados, and I don't know if the Constitution will deal with this, but we need to do something about healthcare, especially Barbadians who are returning home as returning nationals. One of their concerns is about healthcare within Barbados. So, if you can look at that, how we can deal with that. Another thing I'm concerned about also is education. We're having an issue with lack of registered nurses. So I do believe we need to look to see how we can encourage our young persons to study, and if we can help. Barbados is considered for free education, but for certain levels of education it is not free. So I do believe we need to review that. And as far as diversity, equity, and inclusion, we need to promote that at all levels, because some Barbadians feel that they are not, and this is Barbadians home and here, that they are not included in certain conversations. Like, I listen to brass tacks, and you hear the same 6 persons all the time. So if we are truly interested in what people have to say, I don't believe that we should just listen to 6 persons all the time. We should have like a more rounded and grounded conversation to be truthful. Thank you.
6 people are calling people, or is it
I could answer that.
calling people?
Yes, calling persons. The moderator, as soon as they hear the voice, they can say, "Hi, this is Linda. How are you?"
Yes.
Why is it the same 6 persons all the time?
Same story.
I know that's not the Constitution. That is something you need. Thank you. Oh, and when it comes to education, we had the 11 plus for so many years. Are we considering changing that in any way? I don't know how the Constitution can help with that. Because you know, some persons, they get nervous when it comes to exams. And others can do exams. And I don't think a child should be, the opportunity should be lost because of the nervousness for the exam. So I do think we need to look at those possibilities. Thank you.
Before the gentleman, Cameron Rogers would like to make an observation.
Thank you very much, sir. I wish to thank the sub-dean, Reverend Allen, and the last speaker for the presentation. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. I believe that we are cognizant that where we are here is not where Barbados is. And the different societies and everything takes place in baby steps as it would have happened here. But I wish to tell you and comfort you that in 2020, the Parliament of Barbados passed the Prevention of Discrimination in the Workplace Bill, Employment Bill, which included that there will be no discrimination against persons based on their sexual orientation. And then in 2021, the Charter of Barbados, which was crafted in 2021 for the Republic, the very first article of it says, all Barbadians are born free and are equal in human dignity and rights regardless of age, race, ethnicity, faith, class, cultural and educational background, ability, sex, gender, or sexual orientation. And then we went on in the second article to speak about community, and it says, Everyone in Barbados has a duty to care for each other and to ensure that our relationships are at all times characterized by courtesy, civility, and mutual respect. We remain conscious that every generation is indebted to those generations that preceded it and is morally obligated to the one that follows. So that speaks to some of what you would have spoken about.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, next.
Good afternoon to everyone. My name is Ludwig Jones, and I've been in this country for quite some time. I came here as a youngster, so it's something like maybe 65 years or so that I've been in this country. My main concern, and I'm happy to hear the previous speaker speak on healthcare, and that is something that is embedded in me. And I'm looking at it from a little bit different perspective, and that is, we're talking about building up Barbados and the tourism that is, being pushed to bring tourists into the country, to help with the economy and whatnot. One of the things that affects that is the lack of good health care within the island and available health care. We have a situation, from my perspective, that folks that are going to Barbados are coming from the United States, from Canada, from the United Kingdom and other areas where everybody in here, for instance, have some kind of health insurance that we have in this country and in other countries. But when we go to Barbados and we get sick in Barbados, that health care is not tapped into. And that is an issue. A few years ago, my wife and my daughters went down to Barbados. My wife got sick. She was taken to the QE hospital. And when I was notified, I got my insurance forms and everything ready, waiting to hear a call, about paying for her stay in the hospital, and nothing never came through. Then when I spoke to my daughters, they told me, because my wife was born in Barbados, there's no fee. Now, how is Barbados going to succeed in healthcare in terms of paying physicians, paying nurses, paying technicians, if no money is coming in from sources such as here in the United States, people traveling to Barbados, and they're not tapping into the insurance portion that these people have. And all it takes is for the government to make arrangements with the insurance companies is done in other countries. And I don't see why Barbados is not taking advantage of the situation whereby they can tap into the insurance of folks visiting the island. You're bringing big ships load of people, cruise ships coming into the islands, and people are going to get sick. So we're given, care to a certain degree, but we're not getting reimbursed for the care that we're given in Barbados. So I think that's something that definitely has to be looked into, and not just looked into, but make a definite statement in terms of, when people go to other places, your insurance will cover you there, and it's just a matter of making arrangements with the insurance companies. So I think that's something that needs to be done.
Did you say your wife is a Barbadian?
Yeah,
Born in Barbados?
yeah.
So that's how she was treated, as a Barbadian national. I mean, you raise a very vital point, which goes to how the hospital management should look at run its affairs. But she was treated as a Barbadian like you and I, any of us here were walking to QH. And particularly if you're not asking for a private room, nobody ever asks you about insurance. Because you're Barbadian. So you get treated in the general wards, in the ordinary scheme of things, any inquiry. If a foreigner, if an American person turns up in that same position, you'll talk insurance. But not a Barbadian born person. But your point is a valid one. It's not a constitutional issue. It's a one of value for the country at large. We have to find some way of communicating that concern.
Can I follow up on what was just said? Because it's so funny that it's so funny that Mrs. Holder and I were having the same conversation at the tea party we went to, and my niece, she was born in America. Both our parents are Barbadian, and we went to Barbados for a visit a few years back. It happened twice with the same niece. She fell off a stool at my parents' house in Barbados, had a serious accident, and she was admitted in QH, and she's an American citizen. So are you saying because there was no fee, there was no charge, we never received a bill for her? So are you saying also by extension that if parents are Barbadians, that it is extended to the children as well? Because it happened twice. Sorry? Citizen rights. Okay, I just want to clarify. Both parents are Barbadian. She was a minor? She was a minor. It happened, and then the calculation was incorrect.
Mr. Jones, do we have a solution for you?
Yes.
I have enough.
You can make a donation to the hospital for what we
That's fine, but there is insurance. That's my issue. That there is insurance available, and it's a matter of being tapped into.
You raise a valid issue, but you have a way of how to capture it. How to capture and make it happen.
Well, it's international, in scope.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, good night everyone. My name is Daniel Pilgrim. I was a newbie to New York City. Over 50 years I've been here. I'm from Master Course Road, Curry Church. I have some properties there, farms and stuff like that right here. And I don't want to talk about the healthcare section, because I was going to talk about the same thing when Manny was talking about, but he already got it for everything, so I don't have to speak on that really, but definitely we need to get the healthcare system in Barbados in place as soon as possible for the elderly aging population. Now, I want to speak in terms of I just heard my friend over here was speaking about the healthcare, and she's supposed to be the president of the Nursing Association. My wife presently is a CNA, so I was here working in New York, and I want to know if there's any way that they can help the CNA people here that work in the healthcare sectors in terms of better wages, better working facilities, because it's not nice to work in those areas. I get a whole lot of skill from my wife, both conditions and everything. If you can help, I appreciate it. And then in terms of the
that the commission or that's for somebody else?
Now, this is one thing right this is good. Yeah, now this is for the commission. I was here a few years ago, and me and Marty was president, and the Reverend was there. Yeah, this is the Prime Minister, right? And she spoke right here in the pulpit, and I said to myself, this lady's going to be next Prime Minister, and definitely she's Prime Minister. And I want to know from Mr. Mackey, Council General, then we're going to have next general meeting. Last year we had at King World Cup. Remember, it was there? We had a good time. I want to know if we can get the next one. That's all I want to know. Right, thank you.
This constitutional progress that is far away. The Prime Minister will hold another town hall, I believe, but this time it will not be in New York. We've had back-to-back town halls in New York, but I know it gets flat for it. Nevertheless, Barbadians live everywhere. So the council is responsible for 11 states, and we have to ensure the point is just made about inclusion. So that is likely to be out, not likely, it will be out this day. And we'll hold that for now. But thanks for attending and participating. Okay.
So I want to read a part of the Constitution to you and make a recommendation. The right to freedom, S.20. That's why I pulled up reading the Constitution for the last couple of months when this first started.
20?
Yes,
Freedom of expression?
S.20. Freedom of expression.
Yes.
Yes. The right to freedom of expression ensures that a person is able to freely hold opinions, receive and exchange ideas and information, and communicating with others without interference. And there's some exceptions. One exception is where reasonable restrictions must be pursued in the interest of public order, public safety, public morality, among others. Now, I want to make some suggestions about this part of the Constitution, because this part of the Constitution was dated back in 1966, correct? And we have to be more forward-thinking, especially the environment that we're living in right now. And I visit Barbados often, and one of the things that I've observed online is that the public has no sense of the damages that can be done, in spite of the fact that they have a phone and they can take a picture and they can send it all over social media without any consideration of who's in front of the camera and what damage it can do to the people who they're sending across the world, more so to speak. So I think that, and this is to you gentlemen and ladies, I think there should be some kind of consideration or restriction when it comes to social media relating to freedom of expression, because each individual, although you have the freedom to speak, you still have a responsibility on what to say, how to say, and to whom. And I think that this part of the Constitution needs to be considered and adjusted to take in consideration the environment that we're living in, the social media, these gadgets that we hold in our hands can be very dangerous. So I think that I would like to recommend that we develop what we have, but include some form of how we can control how Barbadians use social media and to what extent, and understand the sense of responsibility when you have freedom of expression. And I have one other.
We just want to ask, give you a response to that report.
Good day, Commissioner John. We do have the Computer Misuse Act, which has been invoked to address some instances of what you're describing. But I have taken a note around what you've asked for in terms of freedom of expression and the idea that the use of social media may need to be considered under some of the exceptions. Yes. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Sorry, one more. One of the other things that concerns me is the looseness of weapons and guns in Barbados. And we are, and I say we because I'm a Barbadian, I belong to a Barbadian. And I'm not sure if we have taken into consideration how the Commission would look at the right to bear arms and to what limitations that Barbadians have in terms of the age limit or the minimum age you can have a weapon, and mental health, background checks. I feel that those kind of things should be in the Constitution, again, because we are living in a different society.
That's right.
We are not living in 1966. We are living in 2023 and moving forward. And I think gun control in a small country like Barbados needs to be part of the Constitution, because we have a lot of young men who have mental issues because of the environment they grew up in, the challenges they have, and sometimes they don't know what else to do. But I think that if in the Constitution we have some form of identifying mental illness and relating to gun control, that I think that we can have a better understanding and a better control as how loose guns are in Barbados. Thank you.
This is one that my colleagues regard as a hot potato. But let me just say this, a legitimate person in Barbados has as much difficulty in getting a gun license as trying to get a fish cake at the North Pole. Illegal guns, however, proliferate. They come in FedEx boxes, they come in the port, they come in barrels, they come in as falsified car parts. I think a recent interdiction saw somebody had made one through a 3D printer. The technology is there on the internet, and you could make guns from all sorts of things. Homemade guns. I think we have to be a little careful though in trying to borrow too much from the United States. There's really no need for Barbadians to have this right to wipe out their arms. Because it doesn't exist in our Constitution in the first place. And it's not something I would actually say.
We have had some submissions requests that there be a right to bear arms.
But you know the bad news with guns? That people who are entitled to have them are sometimes absent-minded, and then the gun is stolen from them and falls into the wrong hands. I remember a good friend of mine saying that he went out one night. When he got back home, his young 8-year-old son had a gun on him. He said he used that term code. All he could say, Drew, don't do that. He tried to be as unruffled as possible. A couple of years ago in Barbados, a child died in a home because of a gun being left around the place. Because the man was a high-profile individual, it generated a lot of controversy. Eventually, it didn't get very far because if it was negligence, it was the sort of thing that can happen to any parent, really. But this is probably when to stop speaking.
That was the time.
But, guns are not something that Barbadians really, or the Caribbean generally, should have this U.S. importation concept, the right to bear arms. But I hear you.
But don't forget, we're talking with the Constitution for the future. And I understand what you're saying, but don't you think that we should be proactive? Because we're talking 10 years. Proactive, I mean proactive in having something in the Constitution with respect to having a gun, the age limit, the minimum age you can have a gun, at least it is in there, should you have people who want to get guns legally.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Excuse me one second. Oh, don't?
Yes. I'd like to respond to that question. Sure. In the absence, I understand in the U.S. context where there is a right to bear arms, it may be important to articulate limitations. But in Barbados, where there's no such constitutional right, putting what you're describing in terms of prohibitions, limitations, ages, etc., into the Constitution would create a constitutional right relating to bearing arms. So it would have almost the opposite effect of what you're trying to suggest, because it wasn't in the Constitution before, and once you mention it in the Constitution, you are protecting and creating a right that never existed before. Yes, you have the limitations that you described, but now all of a sudden there's a category of persons in Barbados that would have the right to have guns that never existed before.
So the ones who have guns now have licensed guns?
That is under secondary legislation. That's not constitutional right now.
people can't have sexual harassment, things of that nature. But it's here for me that would hear these concerns and this, so are these people not protected when they go back to the workplace and they're not being discriminated against further? Is there any protection for those people?
Sexual harassment.
Yeah, or
Under the Employment Rights Act, you had a provision of complaints to go
towards the Employment Rights Tribunal.
After the time I
Left that body, there have been no cases brought before the tribunal for in relation to sexual harassment or discrimination either.
But the fact of that there weren't no cases, the question is, if there were or if there's some going forward, will those people be protected? For instance, if I work for Mikey, I have a complaint, I make a complaint. Now we're going to start Mikey from discriminating against me, changing my assignment, or making sure I don't get proper leave time, or changing the time.
There are penalties under the Act if there was a breach of the Act.
Sorry. In terms of, you're referring specifically to the Employment Rights Act, and there are provisions that protect against discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation in that piece of legislation. But the Employment Rights Act does not apply to the state. The state is excluded from application of that. And that is, to the best of my knowledge, the only piece of legislation that offers protection from discrimination on the basis, explicitly, on the basis of sexual orientation, that Employment Rights Act. So it's important to remember that our Constitution right now applies vertically. So it protects the citizens from certain types of discrimination from the state. So you're discussing two separate regimes, right? So the Employment Rights Act will cover the employers who are not the state. But if you wanted that same type of protection explicitly articulated to capture the state, it would have to be in the Constitution.
Well, that's what we're here. So,
yes.
Do we know?
So I guess the question is I'm kind of prompting us right now if that is essentially what you're trying to do.
Right, exactly. Right. And then to touch on the healthcare issue, for me personally, at this point in time, I would never return to Barbados. Why? Because of the healthcare issue. If I have to leave ever so often, come back to America to get my appointments, why am I living in Barbados if I have to come back here? So healthcare is an issue, and it should be raised. And I think the contest of this. We had two hospitals in Barbados for a long period of time. Non-funded in Protestant Vita, and then the nuns left, the hospital left them. They left the hospital, they never got running. Why? Government tried many times, money got allocated, but nothing was done.
Talk it out.
So if we come to healthcare, let's start there. Why should there be one hospital on that small island in Barbados? If I get sick in St. Lucie, and that ambulance comes from St. Michael, I'm dead. I might as well call you on the table. Why call the ambulance? There's no point. Same thing with fire. If my house gets on fire, if my neighbors don't come with a garden hose or use the bucket line, my house can burn down. We are way behind. We are advanced in technology and social media. But the things that we need on a day-to-day basis to live, we are way behind. We still backwards. We're not going forward. We're stuck. In quicksand, we're sinking. We're not rising. Let's look at the things that need to improve Barbados from the small aspects. The third one, what are we doing to return nationals? What rights do the return national have? It's not return. Deported. I'm sorry. Those that got deported. What rights do they have? How are they protected? And how are we as citizens of Barbados protected from them? Because we don't know what they're doing when they come back. Do we have anything in place that we have a right to hire or why we're here? Or are they protected from that, or should they be protected?
You make a valid point, Mr. Levine.
The question is though, are the authorities in Barbados properly informed that people are being sent back?
Yes, they are.
I don't know.
Yes, they do. Yeah, very much so.
Well, there's some gaps. I agree with you.
There are lots of gaps in the system.
There's a gap in holes.
You know, one of the gaps in the system is that the criminal record acquired by the deportee is not So, if that deportee commits an offense, and the jury returns a verdict of guilty, and you go to the keeper of the record and say, what can you say about Mr. Levine? The answer is nothing, sir. No, Mr. Levine is back to Barbados for the most heinous of crimes. I had a man who came back to Barbados from Canada who had killed, who was charged with murder. And he had a particular mode of sending you on to your maker. He was a butcher. He had a particular way of using knife on you that you really died. When he was convicted, he was clean as a whistle. He'd done nothing in Barbados. He had a bad record in Canada. Now, I'll tell you something, Mr. Levine. I tried for several years to ask commissioners of police, both in Barbados and elsewhere, to make that something of concern, to get the record amended to ensure that that criminal record follows. It hasn't happened. I've retired now for almost 10 years from the bench. And I started this more than 20 years ago. It didn't happen. Because unless the politicians buy into it, and they support it at the end of the day, Tony Best don't publish it. So he knows that if he publishes it, what's going to happen to him.
All right.
Nothing happens. There are certain things that need to happen that's just plain common sense. But nobody does it. So you ask him to deportee. Unless that deportee's record gets into the system, he comes in for sentencing as if he has no record. And therefore the judge is obliged to give him the bottom end of the scale. What are we making? What public method? And that is the reality we have to live with.
So then I have questions to pass that torch to the international lawyer and actually keep fighting on.
Look, she doesn't pass that criminal bar. So no one else.
She doesn't pass it. It's a theoretical part, right? To put in writing. And the other thing, I hear you talk about the freedom. So I think that people should have the right to protest and demonstrate on things that they don't feel comfortable with. They should come up and gather peacefully and protest, as long as it's not interfering with it. And go back to the inclusive and all kinds of things. And I think that on this scale, we need to now give the right for the same-sex marriage and those things to come into play. I think that's the big part, because we're moving forward, and this is the time where all these things are pertinent, and they should be exposed, and should be welcome. At the end of the day, it's human rights we're talking about. So, thank you again for your time. Appreciate it.
Council General, Chairperson Blackman, members of the panel, ladies and gentlemen, my concern is land use. I'm kidding? No, I'm not. You're Jocelyn. Brian.
Your last name is?
Brian. Quite recently, I was reading that Sanor's Castle is now New Brandon Hotel. And I was wondering if the slave pit has been demolished or whether it still exists. I think that's a prominent landmark, it's part of our history, and I think our constitution something should be included to protect our landmarks. It's our history, there's nothing we can do to erase that, it's already there. Secondly, I would like to see in the Constitution something that will protect overseas persons who own land in Barbados, who have been swindled from out of their land. As a small landowner, I have very much concerns about that, the protection of residents living overseas. Also,
Could you explain that last point?
pardon me? Something to protect people living overseas. Sometimes you go back home and you no longer own your land. It's owned by your attorney, it's owned by other people that you're totally unaware of. Your taxes are paid and everything, but still you don't own the land. We would like something in the Constitution that would protect us. Is not a constitutional issue, land protection. Also, no foreign entity should own our ports. By that I mean entry into the country, like your airport and your harbor, and any additional places that people enter into the country should not be owned by foreigners, should be kept to the locals. Also, before we I don't know if this is a constitutional issue. Before we appoint foreigners to key position, that we have exhausted all of our avenues in finding local people at home or abroad that can fill those positions. I'm not sure whether that is constitutional or not. I just got the book today. I just heard about the meeting this morning. I had no time to do any research. So forgive me if I am in error. I'll put a disclaimer on that. But very important, I would like to see protection of lands owned by foreigners, especially if their taxes are up to date. Owned by Barbadians, yes. Also, make it a little more difficult for foreigners to come and sweep up our lands, and make it available to locals first before foreigners can claim that. In other words, I want people to invest, and investment is important, but still consider the local people. Make sure that they're contented also. Make funds available, loans available, whatever you have, make available to them so that they can make the acquisitions also. Thank you.
Brian, thank you for coming out to that very late notice. Thank you for coming to raise your concerns. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good evening. My name is Jalissa Medford. I'm the new Secretary to Consul General Holder. 2 points. As a young adult, I recently migrated to the U.S., but in the latter years, before my migration, that is, my problem were the taxes. I believe taxes are necessary. It's our home and we should maintain it, but I also believe that, there should be a limit to it. And for me, the 2% foreign tax, that does not, the longevity of it, it's still existing to me. It was supposed to be temporary, I believe, and it's still there. And for me, yeah. And on online purchases, and we're in a world where, we're advancing. Barbados, is the Caribbean, America, the land of everything. They have access to probably better products, and if it feels as though it's a punishment that we ought to go that route, to go to e-commerce, and I feel like, that particular tax, along with others, should be revised. To me, it just does not make sense. And capital punishment. It's gonna be controversial, but I remember as a kid, there was this one particular death, and my mom and I were driving, and it said, so mommy, the person that killed her, it was a young girl. I remember she was from Parkinson Memorial School, and I think she was from behind the track or something. And I remember asking my mother, so the person that does it, he's he's gonna, he's gonna be killed too. And she was like, Jay, it doesn't work like that. And for me, from such a young age, I always believed that if you did the crime, you should do it too. And for me, present day is almost as if you do a crime, as serious as that, you go to jail. You are there for 2 years, but then you come out, and now with technology, it's almost like you're a celebrity. So you're on Instagram live, and you're like, oh, John Brown now come home, but my family is suffering because he killed my daughter. But yeah, so I'm watching him parading. So I believe that capital punishment should still be active. That's it.
The reality is, don't expect anything soon. The successive governments, successive courts have held that is unconstitutional. While the death penalty is on the statute book, it is not automatically imposed. When the Crown asked the death penalty to be imposed, let me back up. Back in the day, on the conclusion of the trial, the sentence of death was passed. When there is now a death has occurred, it is the option of the Crown to determine whether asking for the death penalty or not. And I have to say so at the outset of the trial. If the Crown asks the death penalty and the jury convicted, you then have to go into a sentencing phase before the death penalty can be imposed. At that point, the court will order psychiatric reports, and a whole raft of people come to say, young Johnny had a misused childhood, blah, 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 blah. So it comes down at the end of the day to the trial judge, having to decide, having heard all the submissions, read all the reports, whether the death penalty is appropriate for this person. The law in that regard is the same in Barbados now. Barbados just come on board. But that law was in place in Bahamas and Belize at the turn of the century. And even when all the reports have been done, and I served in both countries, Bahamas and Belize, no judge has yet invoked the death penalty, even though it was the jury convicted and they went into the sentencing phase and the Crown asked for it. And when people thought that the Caribbean Court of Justice would be more or less the way forward, go back and look at your history. The foundation judges of the Caribbean Court of Justice, when they sat in the Eastern Caribbean Court, led the way before Privy Council did in walking away from the death penalty. And whereas the Privy Council recently affirmed the death penalty as the law of Trinidad and Tobago as the date of Barbados in Boyce Joseph, one of the things that undercuts the use of the death penalty is that Barbados signed on to the inter-American treaties that are against the death penalty. And then because we brought on to jurisprudence of the Privy Council in Pratt Morgan in 1994, they've been on death row for 5 years or more and haven't been executed, is then be cruel and unhuman punishment to execute you. And the way how things run them out 5 years ago, so automatically have to go into a place where you say, well, you life. So, although the statute book of Barbados and the Constitution of Barbados still on paper preserves the death penalty, it's only on paper. It's only on paper.
know who I am, I'm sure you know that. The point you made is a really good point, I get it. But my problem is, I think the media glorifies criminals. Right? I think they kind of, actually in Barbados, it is, when their pictures not in the paper, they're grouped, you didn't get his picture. So in a lot of cases, we make these criminal celebrities by the way we have them in the paper doing thumbs up and also you have taken a life. You have taken someone's life. And you cannot be a celebrity in the land in which I was born. Right? But that's how it was. Like you quite rightly said, it's on paper. But that's the only place it is.
So, sir, should these things not go to referendum?
Can we go to the mic, please?
Sorry, it was Nancy. Should these matters not go to referendum? And, if Barbadians vote for capital punishment, should it not remain?
It's there. It's been a matter of enforcement.
Sorry. That's clear. It does exist. It's just not mandatory. And the reality is, when a person is convicted, they have the right, from a human rights perspective, to explore every single opportunity for appeal and every single legal recourse that they have. But in the region, and in Barbados in particular, that process invariably extends beyond that 5-year mark. That has been determined that it's cruel and inhumane punishment to have someone sitting on death row for 5 years. So the reality is that, practically speaking, the execution, even if, like the chair mentioned, a judge were to pass down that sentence, once you afford that person the opportunity to go through their entire rights-based process to appeal, etc., it sees the time period. So unless there's a drastic change in the legal system itself and the timing for the dispensation of justice and the exhaustion of those opportunities, I cannot see how that changes. And I'm not sure that even if there were changes made to the Constitution with respect to it, there's still, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, but there's still international obligations. There's a wider context that the country has to operate in.
So, I get that reality when you said reality of it. But for me, the reality of it is that you took a life, and it's almost as if you're protected. So is this not a forum where certain aspects should be revised, or we propose that it be revised? Because I feel as though, like you said, you just went down a whole line of, how they're protected, and you can't put them on a certain, you can't put them on the bench for a certain, for 5 years, for more than 5 years. But at the same time, the victims had no voice, and that is the reality of it too. A life is gone, but yet still the one who took the life has all the protection.
So it is in the Constitution. And outside of that, outside of what exists in the Constitution, I'm not sure that there's anything that we can write into the Constitution that will be remedying what you are asking. Essentially, you want to know, how do we get to a position where we can actually execute people? I do. And there's nothing that this commission can recommend in the Constitution that can move us closer to that point, because we already have that power in the Constitution. It just is not mandatory anymore. There's an option. But outside of the Constitution, there are factors that make it practically unlikely that an execution will occur.
So you said after the 5 years and someone...
5 years of conviction.
Yeah. Sorry?
5 years of conviction and not considered inhumane.
Okay, but they can remain in prison for life.
Yes. That's what the judge says.
Typically it's commuted life. No, I'm.
Father Eddie?
Yeah, so I'm gonna jump from behind those whatever. But I'm very concerned about pollution. And I don't know if climate change has anything to do with the reviewing of the Constitution. I was back home recently in a Codrington College for my alma mater for a couple of days, and then the principal turned to me and said, Eddie, we need one of those things that can help chip wood trees because we can no longer burn. And I thought that was so awesome. So I'm in the process now of trying to get a wood chipper for Codrington. But be that as it may, you know, I don't know if the commissioners, if you have received information concerning climate change and pollution and so on, because this is a serious matter. Right now here, I speak myself, I've just become a beekeeper. And we have a beautiful apiary at the cathedral where we have like 30,000 bees right now. And this is something that they wanted to do even when they lived back home and so on. It'll be interesting if we can get maybe the schools starting apiaries. The bees are dying. And these are creatures that help to sustain us where we are and so on. So there's some interesting facts here that I pulled up from my comments that I really wanted to use. The ocean absorbs most of the heat we produce, and we are losing 1.2 trillion tons of things like ice each year. Air pollution is both good and bad, we know that. So what are we doing? I'm hoping that we can help to curb some of the emissions and so on from the vehicles and all that sort of thing. I don't know if that would be, again, in the Constitution or not. And I also have here, our oceans are dying. I know, at least we have some of the best oceans around us and that sort of thing. We'll see all that. We use more of the Earth's resources than we can renew. These are things that persons need to be aware of. I don't know if the Constitution will address that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sunday. Well, as you may know, you've been back recently. Barbados has pledged to be fossil fuel free by 2030. And we also have the largest fleet of electric buses in the Caribbean at this point in time. But some of the things you mentioned there are things that, again, I go back to the chart of 2021, where in the chart of 2021, Article 4 of that charter says, everyone has a right to live in a healthy and balanced environment, has a duty to participate in its preservation, conservation, enhancement, and regeneration. We appreciate the defining importance of our land and sea to our identity and way of life, and therefore also pledge to protect the free and unrestricted access to all our beaches and public spaces, which is an inalienable right for every Barbadian. But then it goes on to say, under the section Environment, Sustainable Development and Resilience, we acknowledge the climate crisis and our duty to be world leaders in the promotion of and agitation for global recognition of this clear and present danger to our lives and livelihood. We pledge to adopt innovative policies and programs to adapt and mitigate against our inherently vulnerable circumstances to build resilience and ensure survival as a people and country. So it's there already articulated in our hopes and aspirations.
So we are at the end, unless there's any fundamental constitutional point.
Okay. Yeah. Everybody, my name is Benjamin Yearwood. I have the privilege of being mayor in Surgeon. And glad to be here for this historic event. A couple of things. Well, the first point that's constitutionally related is something that Larry and I discussed. Mr. Justice, you talked about that, that there's a cabinet position being considered to consider diaspora affairs.
Paper.
Right, it's considered.
Asking the commission to provide that diaspora issues should be considered by a cabinet overview.
Gotcha. So I think that what would be better is if you had a special member of parliament or delegate to do that, somebody that would look after diaspora affairs and also that could propose legislation, even if they couldn't vote, like they have territorial delegates here in the United States. But it'd be better if they were a member of parliament and could vote. That was the first thing. Second thing is, maybe not so much related, is, I recently retired, would love to retire, go to Barbados. But like here in the US, they have retirement communities, but I don't think there are any. They are?
There's just one Barbados is in charge.
Okay. Definitely encourage.
There are a few. Not a lot, but there are a few.
Okay. And finally, to end with, and I would just agree with all the folks that said that healthcare is a big deal. I hear two things, that the healthcare system in Queen Elizabeth Hospital is very good, and then I hear other things that are sort of like horror stories. So maybe it's just PR or something along those lines. So that's a big deal for people who want to move back into Barbados.
Let me just say this, huh? Barbados has a better health service than most of the islands of the Eastern Caribbean, including as far as even if we're going to Trinidad. We have a reasonable health service. And they have some supplemental things outside the hospital. They do Sandy Crest, you name it, FMH. There's no shortage of facilities. The Queen Elizabeth Hospital, however, is its worst enemy in terms of how they run their affairs. I've long argued that the hospital should be treated as a delicate sick. And that if you fall ill outside after 4 o'clock on a Friday, you shouldn't have to wait till Monday morning to get onto a ward. And God help you if you fall sick on the Thursday, going to get onto that ward to Tuesday. And the system only works if there's somebody exceptional falls ill outside the normal hours. I was a patient there for a couple of days last year. But that's not a constitutional issue. But I also want to say this, that Barbadians can come home to Barbados and get the care and attention for ordinary matters, and I would suggest great respect to the gentleman you ensure he will not die before his sisters come.
I have a question about the first suggestion when you spoke to the special
member of parliament or a delegate from the diaspora. Have you given any thought to how that person might be selected? So appreciating that we have diaspora communities in New York, Boston, Canada, Australia, wherever. Have you given any thought to how such a representative might be selected?
Yeah, I think that people in the diaspora would vote if they're interested. And if they're interested, they would register to vote. And there would probably be some type of fee associated with that to cover all that cost. And that the election commissions in Barbados can either send out paper ballots or figure out for the 21st century an electronic method of possibly doing that.
And it would be, you anticipate, or you envision a single representative for all diaspora communities, regardless of where they are?
Yes.
Okay.
But I also feel, I'm sorry, just to go off of what you said, I also feel as if, something should be left to home. Yes, we have opinions, but we're not there to experience it. So I don't believe like just because you live abroad and you're a Barbadian, God knows I'm Barbadian and I love my country, but I cannot, I don't think that I should, I would not share the same, the same pain. So for me,
So that's why I asked the question, because, a lot of the submissions that we've gotten different things, and there are different models that exist elsewhere in the world. So for example, some people are advocating for the right to vote in elections, same as everyone who's living at home. Some people at home express the view that persons in diaspora don't live there, won't experience it, and should not vote in those elections. And there's a third option, what you've advocated for, which is having a diaspora representative sitting in Parliament involved and able to represent views. So I'm just kind of wondering, in terms of everyone who's here and has an opportunity to kind of state a position, clearly there are multiple positions in the room as to what that representation might look like. I would be interested in understanding how everyone feels, perhaps a simple show of hands, around those three options, or if anyone has a fourth or fifth option around there.
Here's a question that came in on the email. As a Barbadian living in the USA over 45 years, is it a right for Barbadians to vote in elections in Barbados, even if you're not familiar with the political aspects or the educational aspects? I think that is an important consideration in the whole thing. That is by Egla Graves. I'll send you the email.
Mr. Ewart, that question my colleague has raised came up in the London consultation. And my colleague, Commissioner Bradford, asked the person who had answered, and I ask you now. It would be helpful to the Commission if you formulated a small paper that spoke to how you envisage that representative interfacing with the Barbadian Parliament and representing the diaspora. Because you have the concept, I suggest you think it through, work it through, and give us the benefit of your ideas in a paper, rather than we try to interpret it for you. You have a cut-off point of glass yesterday, but in reality, you have the end. I give you the end say the middle of June, a month from today, more or less get it to us. But please, time is of the essence, and we like to give consideration. But the diaspora issue is one of some interest. And the point raised by Mr. Marquis' young sister is Mr. Holden is rare. It's a very rare one. Elizabeth, I apologize.
It's okay.
It's a very rare one. Why should people who have no modern terminologies, no skin in the game, have an impact on an election when they don't have to bear the views on it?
not only that, sir, because if a Bajan cannot vote, come to America and tell another Bajan who could vote in America what they're experiencing, because they would tell you you can't, you don't know. So why should you have a say? This is how I feel.
I feel very strongly about that. Very strongly.
Can we have a show of hands?
No.
That's very unscientific. Those who think that Barbadians who live in the diaspora should be allowed to